Revenge is a dish best served cold. Welcome to Forest Fan TV. Good morning, good evening, or good night, wherever in the world you are. Whatever time of day you're watching this, hope you're having a wonderful day, and welcome to your match preview for Bournemouth versus Nottingham Forest. Hope you guys are doing well. Hope you're looking forward to the game tomorrow. As always, we will have the watch along and the player ratings for that game for you guys to hopefully enjoy. Coming up in today's video, we will be talking about the predicted Forest team. Will Wood start? Will Danilo start? Who will Bournemouth field, and should we be worried about any of their players? I'll be giving you my prediction on the scoreline, and of course I want to hear from you guys down below. What do you think the score will be for Bournemouth against Nottingham Forest? Don't forget, the content is still flowing today. We're going to have the Predictor League for you around 3:30, 4 o'clock today. So make sure, if you're not registered to it, it's in the link tree down below. Go hit that and select the Predictor League and make sure that you have your scores in ready to be shouted out on the stream. Following on from that, we've got the full launch of our interview with Craig Bromfield that Dino took last night and was exclusive for the members. Guys, you're not going to want to miss it, because in that video we talk about Roy Keane and erections. Yes, you heard me right. Anyway, let's get on with this video and let's talk about the game. Okay, so let's start with the key information before we have a look at the predicted lineup. It is looking very unlikely that Chris Wood is going to be registered in time to face Bournemouth. The registration has to happen before 12 p.m. today, depending on what time of day you're watching this video. He may or may not have registered. Even if he registers, I don't think he starts into the team. At best, he will be named on the bench. But from what I'm hearing at the moment, the registration has taken a bit longer as the medical was completed today. Just a quick note on this Chris Wood signing. It is a loan, but it's an obligation to buy of 15 million based on conditions. The conditions are going to be things like avoiding relegation and X amounts of goals being scored from Wood. If we end up paying 15 million for Chris Wood, that for me is Newcastle pulling down our pants and literally shoving Wood in it. It's just way too much. I don't understand why it just wasn't done as a loan deal with an option to buy. I don't know why they pushed the obligation. The only thing that rings reason as to why they would do that is because Nottingham Forest are still looking to loan yet another player. Look, we'll squeeze a transfer video in somewhere for you guys today, but that can only be the logical sense. Because if they did this and we get forced with the 31-year-old, who will be 32 probably by the time that we buy him, for 15 million, I'm still on the fence on this one, guys. I'm sorry, but look, once he's a red, of course, I back him. You guys will back him. But we do have to scrutinize the deal and talk about it. And we'll be covering that off in tonight's stream on Gore, Grumpy Old Reds. So if you hear me say Gore, you know it's Grumpy Old Reds. 8:45 tonight. So make sure you're tuned in, because there's a lot to unpack ahead of the Bournemouth match. Anyway, we digress. So Chris Wood probably won't be registered in time. Even if he does, I expect him to start from the bench. Now, the big question is about Danilo. Will Danilo make his debut? And I can categorically tell you that there is no chance in hell that Cooper's going to chuck him straight in. If you listen to the language that Cooper used in his interview yesterday when talking about Danilo, it was clear to see that he doesn't want to chuck him straight in until he's settled into his routine in Nottingham. I can kind of understand that, and I would have been all for Danilo being chucked in, and to be honest, I still am, because the other thing that had happened was Yates obviously picked up a knock in the Leicester match, but we've been told that he will be available for the match against Bournemouth tomorrow. So I think Yates will start. Yates is always going to be a starter if fit for Steve Cooper, and I think we'll see Danilo on the bench and maybe come on 10-15 minutes tops in tomorrow's match. In terms of Bolly, as we updated for you guys earlier in the injury video, Bolly will be out for this game, and the big problem is going to be Hennessy has to go in goal. Look, there are still good links from some really, really talented keepers coming to Nottingham Forest. But at the moment, it's going to be Hennessy for this and Hennessy for the 2 matches against Barchester United. In terms of the other players, there's not too many new injuries apart from the ones we already know. So I expect to see a lineup that isn't too dissimilar to the one we saw at Leicester. So let's jump into that now. All right, guys, so let's bring up the team sheet. And I think we're going to see very similar to what we saw against Leicester. I've replaced Hendo for Hennessy for obvious reasons. I think the back four, will remain the same, with Lodi and Aurier just out of this world at the moment. In terms of form, they're automatic picks for me straight away. I'm still not convinced about McKenna at the back. I think he slows the play down and he passes negatively, mainly back and forth to Worrell and then back to the keeper. Worrell looks to have stabilised. I still worry about a mistake in him or two, but Aurier has had a huge influence in making him look better than I actually think he is. Now, a lot of you will argue with that, but I think once we get Niakate back in fit, then the automatic 2 for me would be Niakate at left centre-back, and then I would put Bolly at right centre-back. And can you imagine the brick level those 2 centre-backs will be, especially with Niakate's pace? Oof. Then that's a back 5. You bring Hendo back in once he's fit. And I think that is one of the most solid back 5s we will see in, at least the top 10 of the Premier League for me. But anyway, that's by and by. That's for a couple of weeks down the road. By the way, if you haven't seen it already, check out our injury update, where we have some really good news about Niakate and Omar Richards. That was released earlier on today. Moving into the midfield, it is a toss-up for me between will Yates start or will maybe Colback come in or O'Brien. Oh, God, just saying the word Colback starting makes me shudder. But this might be a game that suits Colback because it is against a crap opposition in Boringmouth. And Colback may come in for Yates in this one. So that Yates one, put a /Colback next to it /O'Brien. I don't think O'Brien will start because Mangala doesn't seem to be able to have the huff and puff to get through 90 minutes. Therefore, Cooper's doing this thing at 60-65 minutes where it's a straight swap, Mangala and O'Brien, and I expect that to continue against Bournemouth at the weekend. In terms of the shape of the front 3, I've narrowed them up and played it. We're now kind of playing a Christmas tree formation with a false 9, if that makes sense. So we're playing with 2 cams, with Scarpa and Morgan Gibbs-White there. Now you could argue they were getting in each other's way a bit in the Leicester game, but I still think Cooper will go with this, and I still think Jono, although I've put him up front, won't really be playing up front. It will be more on the right wing, and he'll be floating in from there, trying to run in behind the last man, in like he did against Leicester and how he got his 2 goals. Now, I don't expect Boringmouth to play with such a high line as Leicester did stupidly at the City ground. But if they do, that is really where we can make money and make hay with Jono getting in there, especially with the likes of Scarpinia and Morgan Gibbs-White, who can find those through balls. This team is starting to really take shape and it's becoming a lot easier to predict what Cooper's going to do. And that's actually a good thing because it shows some consistency in terms of the team formation and the personnel. I remember doing this back in the Bournemouth match at the City ground, and you're sitting there for a long time trying to figure out and second guess what Cooper's doing. And over the last couple of games, FFTV have been very, very accurate at predicting what the starting 11 will be. So for me, look, would I actually go with this team? My honest answer is no, not against Bournemouth. I would actually prefer a team. Well, let me show you the team I would prefer and how I would set up. I would go for this setup. My favoured formation, 100% for Nottingham Forest with the players we have, is a 4-2-3-1. Now, granted, we don't currently have a striker. Controversially, I've put Dennis up front, even though I personally think he's a winger, but he can play in that up front role, and I would use him ahead of Surridge in that position. The back 4 is the back 4 in terms of what we can currently field out, but I would chuck the young kid Danilo in. Maybe it's me just with my whole shiny new toy theory, but this is a position that he plays extremely well in the formation he's played at Palmeiras in a 4-2-3-1 that fits him beautifully. A lot of you say we get overrun in a 4-2-3-1 with only 2 in the middle. I fully disagree with that. Both Danilo and Freuler are used to this formation As I mentioned, Danilo and Palmeiras, and with Freuler, this is the formation he plays at international level. It also releases them in that double pivot role where one progresses and one holds, and then vice versa. You also have the likes of Scarpa, who does track back and he can defend. Jono, not so much, but Morgan Gibbs-White will get back. He will put an extra body in there. Although he's not the best tackler and defender, he has a presence. And what does this allow us to do? It actually allows us to play our talent in the correct position. It creates space for the fullbacks to bomb forward, up and down, in reference to Lodi and Aurier. And that link-up play between Lodi and Scarpa will progress and prevail. Look, personally, I think Scarpa's a better right winger, but Jono, after the performance he had against Leicester, has to be run out in the team. Maybe you could argue you put Scarpa on the right, Dennis on the left, and chuck Jono up front, but I just see a lot more balance in this team. Look, I've put Yatesy on the bench just because he's coming back from a fitness, and if I'm confessing and being honest, I just want to see Danilo play. I ain't going to lie to you. I've dropped Mangala as well. Over the last couple of performances, I feel his passing has not been great. I personally think he's still not fully fit and is finding match fitness during games. Maybe we see him come on, or start, should I say, and maybe get a bit more than 60 odd minutes this time. But let me know what you think of that team. Do you think it's too aggressive? Or do you agree with me that the likes of Danilo and Freuler can hold that midfield with the support from the likes of Scarpa and Morgan Gibbs-White and allow Lodi and Aurier to progress up the pitch? Yes, Dennis will be controversial, but remember, Owoni is out and Chris Wood probably isn't going to be registered in time to play. Let me know. In terms of Boringmouth, what do we need to worry about with them? Just their BS, man. They always seem to get some form of BS against Nottingham Forest. If it's their stupid stadium, that 11-seater stadium, I don't even know if it's a full-seater stadium, that has a roof that can't contain high winds or low winds, as we remember from last season. If it's them paying off the officials as they did at the back end of the last season when Surridge should have had a clear penalty and was flagged offside. If it's just their annoyance of getting the wins against us at the wrong time for us in the season, as they did this year, coming off that 2-0 halftime result, and we go and blow it and concede 3 goals against Boringmouth in the second half. That, for me, was a huge, huge turning point in the season, and it took Nottingham Forest and Steve Cooper a long time to recover from it, as then we went on and we saw the Fulham match, etc. So we owe them one. We owe them one. Just as Cooper came out the other day and said we owed Leicester one for the 4-0, I think we owe Boringmouth one bigger than we owe Leicester, because I can't stand them. I call them Boringmouth because they're boring to watch. They got crap players. They got like bland vanilla, style of football. The only one that seems to do my head in is that goddamn Billings, who seems to bang one in every time he plays against Forest. He will be playing, but Solanke will be out and injured, and they're going to have that idiot up front, Kifo Moore, who scored against us in this fixture last season. Yes, it was late. Yes, we were pushing hard for the win, but it was a stupid free kick that they scored from. Anyway, I don't really think at the moment, looking at the form of Boringmouth, there's much to worry about. I really don't. And I've put in the title just to annoy the Boringmouth fans, an easy win. And I think it should be an easy win unless Boringmouth do a Boringmouth against Forest. And that's my only concern. Pound for pound, player for player, we destroy them in every position on the pitch. Apart from maybe centre-back. But then again, their centre-backs are crap. I'm confident of a win, but there's something niggling in the back of my mind that says Boringmouth are that annoying little rash that you find on your ass every now and again, that you just have to keep scratching and it doesn't go away. It's either going to be a huge comfortable win for Forest. I know it sounds crazy, away from home. We scored very limited amount of goals. We've won 1 game. But this is an opportunity not to be missed. This is an opportunity to stick 2 fingers up to Boringmouth, seal their fate, put them in more trouble. I'm telling you now, I've watched a lot of their videos on YouTube, spoken to loads of their fans, and they are not in a good place. And they see themselves going down, and that's their fan base talking. And we have to drive an extra nail into that coffin. And that puts us 7 or 8 points clear of Bournemouth and looking up and not down on the table. Now, with Crystal Palace drawing with Barchester United, Forest can't move any higher in the table unless we stuff them like 12-0 or something. So a good result will be Forest finishing and ending the weekend in 13th in the Premier League, level ideally on points with Crystal Palace, and honing in on that top 10 and looking up and not down. I'm predicting a 3-1 win to Nottingham Forest. I just have a niggling feeling in the back of my mind, and I need you guys to tell me that that feeling is wrong. Let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you so much more. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope that's helped you. I hope it's given you a bit of insight into what to expect tomorrow. We, of course, will have the preview. We'll have the watch along and the player ratings as always on Forest Fan TV. If you're enjoying the content, look, I ask this on a lot of videos, but you don't understand the help it does just by giving the video a quick like, subscribing to the channel as we're targeting and lasering in on 9,000 subscribers thanks to your support. Thank you to all the new members who have joined. Thank you to all the members who have renewed their membership. Quick shout outs to Glenn Shaw, Stu, to Nick, to Ronaldo, to Robert Lockhart. All of those have now got the gold emblem because they've been 6-month members. And thank you as well to Charlie A and to British Preparation Centre for your 4-month membership. Love you, love all the other members. And we'll see you on the next video, which I think is going to be a transfer update or something. Come on, you Reds.